And we are live.
I think we're
Hey,
live.
I think we're live. Hey, welcome everyone. This is Margie and I am joined by Sean Smith. We're happy to be with you here in this fun format, kind of casual hangout setting, talking about a really huge, a very, very important topic. We're as excited to share this with you as you may be to hear this information tonight. We were kind of going over some of our ideas and notes and bullet points earlier, and we thought, damn, this is good content. So breaking through your money blocks, a huge topic. And what we want to invite you to do is that as you're listening in, feel free to sort of make comments on the page as we go, or you know, if we say something that particularly resonates with you, like, yeah, let us know. Yeah, you agree, or if you've got questions, or you know, any way that you would like to participate, because that's kind of the whole idea here, just to be chill and to share some really valuable ideas. Sean?
Yes, and we're playing with this format. It looks like everybody was watching me play with my phone and do a little bit of social media stuff as you were talking.
Okay.
So sorry about that. We are playing with this new format. Not a new format, but we don't do a whole lot of hangouts. And you should be on our page right now that says eliteleadersnetwork.com/money. And that's the place to engage with us. There are Facebook comments right down below. And when you comment on that page, I will be able to see the comments and I'll be able to respond in real time, hopefully close to real time. There's a little bit of a delay with Hangouts. So just we know that. And it's a fun medium though. It's a really fun broadcasting way to connect with you guys and do it in a live setting, etc. And
for those of you who have our cell phone numbers, if anything really funky happens technology wise, if like all of a sudden you can't hear one of us or something funky happens, like text us, okay, and let us know. Okay.
Yes.
Let's get the call rolling, Sean.
Right. Do you want to kick us off? You want me to?
Well, let me just say this, that your future is truly predetermined by the beliefs that you have. And I really think that's, you know, your area, Sean, to comment on. But this topic tonight really impacts every single thing in your life, and very, very specifically impacts your network marketing business and your success. Because your beliefs, particularly about money and success, they literally become the goggles or the lenses that you see everything through. And so our intention for this Google Hangout this evening is to first identify what some of those blocks are and how you might see them showing up, so that you can catch yourself and notice, and then also what are some of the things you can do to literally break through those barriers, so that when you're done tonight, you have a whole new fresh set of beliefs that will serve you far better maybe than some of the antiquated, outdated, outmoded beliefs that you've been carrying around about yourself, about your worthiness, about money, and about your success in all areas of your life.
That is so incredibly true. Whoops, let me put myself back up there. That is so incredibly true. The biggest challenge that people have is really these internal blocks, you know. It's unconscious, it's unknown to most people. So that's why this conversation is so incredibly important. And most people don't really take the time to have awareness around these money blocks, because most people are focused on their skill set. Most people are focused on, you know, how to overcome objections or time management, and all of that stuff is important. I'm not saying anything is unimportant, but it's not the most important piece. So we wanted to jump on and just have this open, honest, transparent dialogue and really deep dive around your money blocks and your money beliefs. And we're going to be talking about three main things. The beliefs and the blocks that you have around money, the beliefs and blocks that you might have around success, and the beliefs and the blocks that you might have around yourself. And it's going to be so juicy. So we're going to really jump into this content here. As Margie said, you know, your future is really predetermined by the blocks or by the beliefs that you have, by the programming that you have in your life, and any kind of attempt at a breakthrough without doing some of that internal work is going to be futile. And I don't want to make it sound like it's useless, but you're not going to really create the liberation, the freedom, the breakthrough, the results, the outcomes that you really want, unless you have this internal peace nailed, because it's that internal peace that's going to ultimately, and I'm not talking about PEAC. I mean, we want you to have inner peace as well, but I'm talking about the internal peace, the internal content, not content, but that like piece of a pie, right? That kind of piece of your belief system. So we'll talk a lot about your belief system. We'll talk about your story, your programming, all that stuff. And this is a prerequisite to making any kind of breakthrough in your life. So we want to tell a little bit about ourselves, just so you have a little bit of context of who we are a little bit. I know most of you know at least one of us, otherwise you wouldn't be on the Hangout. And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time telling our full story, but we do want to tell you a little bit about our stories as it relates to tonight's content, as it relates to money, right? And so I'm going to ask Margie to tell her story first. And Margie and I have been partnered together for several years now. We met about 4 or 5 years ago. We were put together, connected by Jack Canfield, and we've just had such a great bond. I mean, I love her and what she stands for and who she is and how she shows up in the world. You know, I'm not so impressed. I'm not as impressed. I mean, I'm impressed with what she's done in the world, but I'm more impressed with who she is. And I really want you to hear more about some of her transparent upbringing around money. And then I want to tell you a little bit about my transparent upbringing around money, so that you're going to find something in one of our stories that really resonates with you. And we're kind of creating the pre-foundation for the rest of this call. So Margie, you want to take it away?
Sure. Now I'm seeing myself big on the screen, even when you were talking. Were you seeing yourself big on the screen?
I was seeing myself big on the screen, yeah.
Okay,
and
good.
We're toggling back and forth.
Okay,
Right,
all right,
right.
good. Because all right.
Yeah, you have to know when you can, like, you know, scratch your nose and when you can't, right? Like
right. So my story, particularly as it relates to network marketing, and then I'll tell you a little bit about kind of my money conditioning and so forth. About 27 years ago, I was at a significant crossroads in my life. I was a junior high school music teacher, like, you know, teaching music, chorus in junior high. And I had 3 little kids. I did not feel like going back to teaching school to be able to pay the mortgage and so forth. And so I was just very, very torn. And I tentatively had signed a teaching contract, but a few weeks before school started, I happened upon a fledgling network marketing company. I fell in love with a specific product, and I knew that I could talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime about that product. And so any preconceived ideas I had about, could I do it? Did I want to do it? Would I ever do it? They just vaporized. And I jumped in with both feet. I completely canceled that teaching contract. I had 3 little kids. I had no previous experience, and I had no money. So I had a few strikes against me, as some people might say, but I did have a deep why. My desire to give my kids a better life was so freaking compelling to me. And also I did make a whatever it takes decision, which has served me so well, because, you know, if you've been in this wonderful profession of ours for very long, you know that it's challenging and there are ups and downs, and, you know, there are days you feel defeated and there are days you feel on top of the world. But when the challenging times come, if you've made a whatever it takes decision, then it just becomes infinitely easier to keep your eye on the goal, to keep the big perspective, and not to get bogged down in the minutia or the challenges. So that's, you know, a little bit of my experience. That whatever it takes decision, sometimes that meant driving across the country, not being able to afford to fly, just driving in my car, not being able to afford to sleep in hotels, meant I would sleep in my car in hotel parking lots. And then I would go off to meetings the following day and just say, guys, join me. We're going to get wealthy. We're going to become millionaires. And, you know, there was a lot of frustrations and a lot of times when I was promised a lot of people would be there and no one showed, and just all of that, all of those things that go hand in hand with building a big network marketing business. But the bottom line, I guess, is within a year, I was making more money in a single month than I could have made in an entire year teaching school. And I had made my first $1 million by the time I was 35. So the persistence paid off, and that whatever it takes decision paid off. And what as I've been a huge fan of personal development really since I was a young girl, like really fell in love with the idea that we have the ability to change our lives, that the way we think can change our circumstances dramatically. And I fell in love with those concepts a long time ago. And what I realize is I really had a gift in my parents, because I didn't get any negative money messages. About, I don't know, 10 years ago, I was in a Bob Proctor seminar. It was The Science of Getting Rich. And he was having us list all of our sort of negative programming around money. What are all the negative money messages that you got as a young child? And I sat there and stared at the paper, because I knew the next step was that we were going to burn these. Like we were going to put an end to these. And I tried so hard to come up with negative money messages that I heard from my parents. And literally, I had none. At the break, I called my parents and I just said, thank you so much, because literally I could not think of any negative money messages. Like never once did I hear, we don't have money for that, or what do you think money grows on trees, or, what are you, crazy? And I never heard any of that. And I look at the really modest home that we grew up in. We weren't rich by any means, but guess what? I thought we were, because anytime I asked my parents for, an opportunity or whatever, it was always yes, or we're going to figure it out, or yes, it can happen. And so I just feel so grateful that with all of the things that I've had to learn and all of the things that I've had to figure out, overcoming a lot of negative money messages was not one of them. And I even remember back as a young girl feeling so overindulged at Christmas time that I would hide some of my toys before my friends would come over, because I didn't want them to feel bad. And, I think back on that now, and gosh, what a really amazing gift my sweet parents gave me by not filling my head with a bunch of negative money messages. Sean, you want to share yours? Story?
Yeah, that was amazing. Can you hear me okay, Margie?
I can.
Okay,
but you're not big in the screen.
Yeah, I think I just switched. Now I should be though, right?
Okay, maybe.
I think so. I just switched.
Okay.
That was awesome. And I love, number one, I love your story, but I love your transparency. I love how you going back to those feelings and what you've learned from your parents, and realizing that they had kind of fooled you in a good way, and they didn't fill you up with a lot of those challenging beliefs that so many people have. So thank you for sharing that. And my story, this is interesting. Margie and I have never really shared our stories, even with each other. I had just heard that a couple days ago when we were talking about it. Margie and I have never really shared our stories specifically around money in this context. And it's so important to just openly speak about money and openly speak about success. So my upbringing, we weren't dirt poor, but we certainly weren't, we didn't have a whole lot of money. And as I look back on my journey, with the awareness that I have now as an adult, I look back and I realize that I did get some limiting beliefs around money from my parents. And of course, nobody's parents are going to do it intentionally, but parents' beliefs are always going to be transferred to their kids. I mean, you can't not transfer your beliefs to your children. Even if you try not to, they're going to get transferred. And some of the beliefs that I grew up with was just kind of around hoarding money, right? And I still see patterns of it to this day, where I'll realize that I have plenty of money at times, but I act like I don't, or I feel like I don't, or even just the idea of purchasing things, I'll kind of sometimes have a little bit of a hiccup. And I realize that's just programming around, not spending money that you don't have. And my parents were both actually my dad was the the worker in the family. My mom didn't work for, I think she was like 25 years old, so she was on disability. So there wasn't a whole lot of money coming in, and I know my dad had a lot of stress around that. And so unintentionally, I picked up some of those messages. Now, I still dreamed about having all this incredible money, but I didn't realize that I was still programmed. Even though I had these big dreams, I was still programmed that, money doesn't grow on trees, even though they didn't really necessarily say that exact same thing. That's sort of the programming that I got, is that you have to be really careful around money. And so what we want you to do is we want you to just be aware of some of the programming that you got around money. Now, here's the thing that I've played with a lot, and when I say play with, I mean explore with a lot of my coaching clients and discuss obviously with people around money, is that, our parents' generation, my parents' generation, grew up with the values of the Depression, right? Even if your parents didn't grow up in the Depression, they grew up with the values of the Depression because their parents did. Yeah. So either your parents or their parents grew up in the Depression. And what that means is people have this really tight, restricted feeling around money because once upon a time they had to. There was almost no money. And so just understanding that most of us don't have this abundance, expansive feeling toward money is really important to understand. And so we want you to have that awareness, and we want you to notice, observe what's going on in your money mindset. What are some of the messages that you've gotten around money, and how has it affected you? Because so here's how money stops people. The way money stops people is it forms sort of a ceiling, right? If you have a money ceiling, T. Harv Eker calls it a money thermostat. Plenty of different people, call it different things, but you've basically got a ceiling above your head, above your achievement. And wherever that ceiling is as high as you're going to allow yourself to go. That's not as high as you're capable of going, but it's as high as you're going to allow yourself to go, because we all have a story in our mind that says this amount of wealth is okay, this amount is not. We all have a barrier there. We all have a border. And up until that is okay, and anything beyond that is not. Now, most of our money ceilings are quite low. Most of our money ceilings are way below what we're capable of and what we want in our lives. But until we learn how to break through that ceiling and continually raise that ceiling, all we're going to do is just keep bumping up against it, right? So when you have these stories around wealth, they'll create sabotage in your life. Even when it doesn't make sense, they'll create sabotage in your life because it's impossible for you to outperform your own money stories. You can't get through that external conditioning without doing the internal work, without really taking a look at what you've created and what's been created for you in terms of the wealth mindset or your money ceiling. And so that's the first thing you really have to look at if you want to create a true breakthrough, right? Is there anything you want to add to that, Margie?
Yeah, you were just saying that it made me think, of a statement that I've heard of, how tall does a tree grow? As tall as it can. How fast does a cheetah run? As fast as it can. Like, it's so interesting that we are the only species that limits the best and the fastest and the biggest and that we can be. And it's our marvelous minds. They can be just this amazing gift when we utilize them and harness all of these these amazing innate capabilities. When we harness it for good, it is so powerful. But also we can let limiting beliefs creep in, and then, like no other living species, we actually limit. We create self-imposed limitations that keep us from being all that we were born to be. Unlike any other living species that grows as big as it can or goes as fast as it can. I don't know. Just a thought that came to mind while you were speaking. And I don't know. A few thoughts that I have along those lines is. Just like an example is people that win the lottery. If they win the lottery and it's so outside of their scope of what they believe themselves to be worthy of, what they can manage well, and just like I don't know, a very high percentage, 99.9% of lottery winners do end up, you know, falling right back to whatever the level was. I don't want to say necessarily poverty, but it's just an interesting phenomenon. You probably have heard it before, but very interesting that a lot of lottery winners end up broke again. And I've also heard it said that, you know, the world's wealth is probably held by, I don't know, 5%. 5% of the people in the world hold maybe 80, 90% of the world's wealth. It's kind of one of those ratios. And I've heard it said that if you were to take the wealth from that 5% of people, or whatever that percentage is, and distribute it equally, so there was an absolutely equal amount given to every single person on earth, within about 5 years, the wealth would be distributed right back to the way that it was before you did the generalized distribution. And the point of that is not that, yeah, there are some people that just are so smart and clever and they're savvy with money and it takes money to make money and they've got a little money. So, I mean, all of those are factors, I'm sure. But what the real truth is that it's an idea, that it's an idea in their minds. They are used to wealth. They have decided that wealth is for them. They have decided that this is the way it will be. And so as they you know, would start with a meager amount, they would just, that would be, you know, like, okay, this is interesting and I'm on my way to wealth again. So it's just, it's like, it's a mindset thing. What they believe is possible for them, and literally they just have made up their minds. It's a preconceived idea. They've made up their minds that they will be wealthy. And so they just keep going until they are wealthy because they haven't created those limiting beliefs. It's just that kind of water will rise to its own level. And so, you know, all of these are just kind of set up concepts to help you really realize that the power is within us to create the kind of mindset that can bring us the kind of the abundance that we desire, and that we don't need to be mired in outdated, outmoded ideas that no longer serve us. We deserve to break through to the abundance that is truly ours.
Awesome. Thank you for all that. The that concept that you were sharing about the wealth and, you know, how it's just going to come back is so fascinating to me.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
I get this idea, you know, this visual of all the money going out and then all of it just coming right back in. And it has to do with, you know, these tolerations and these, you know, we become a magnet. Our beliefs become a magnet, and they're going to attract whatever it is that we believe. So tonight, we're going to talk about a few specific beliefs. One of them is money. Another one is success in general. And a third one is yourself. And a lot of them, I mean, they're all interrelated. And I want to explain a little bit how they're interrelated, because they kind of nest on top of each other, right? If you've ever seen like those toys where the nesting monkeys, or the nesting bears or whatever, you know, kind of fit inside of each other. It's that same kind of concept. And we're going to start with, I'll start with money first. So money, obviously people have specific beliefs around money. We're going to go into each one of these in a moment, but people have specific beliefs around money, and their money beliefs, sometimes they're surface level, sometimes they're much deeper. But if you imagine the money belief is right here, then just above that money belief is a success belief. And money is one of the representations of success. It's one of the ways that we measure success, but it's not all of success. So we have a success belief that is even more sort of all-encompassing than money is, and money lives inside of that. And then even beyond that success belief is your belief in self, your self-value, your self-worth, right? And so each of these feed into each other. But you might have a success belief that's separate from money. And you might have a self-worth belief that's separate from success or money. So I just want you to understand that each one of those is a bigger umbrella, right? So you've got this big self-worth belief, you've got a smaller success belief, and then you've got a smaller money belief. and we're going to attack and really discuss each one of those individually, but I just want you to understand how they nest inside of each other, because with beliefs, you've got to have clarity, right? There's no like one size fits all. You're going to wipe away all your limiting beliefs. I've been studying beliefs for over a decade, and I've never found that a way that you can just wipe clean everything all in one shot. You've got to laser in on the specific beliefs, the specific stories. And so you have to understand that one belief might only live in one area and another might live in another area. So let's get into, unless you want to say anything more about that, Margie, let's get into the specifics, and we'll start with money.
Yeah. So, you know, one of the exercises that we have people do in network marketing is we start by saying, so what would $500, what kind of a difference would $500 make for you? How about $1,000? What kind of a difference would 5,000? And what would you do, you know, if you had that kind of money? And it's just interesting because I've been doing this for 2.5 decades, and we used to do a lot of live trainings, and it's so interesting. You watch people write now how about 1,000? How about 5,000? And then when you get to, what about if you're making an extra 10,000 a month? You actually see people like slow down. They can wrap their brains around what they would do with 1,000, 500, 1,000, 5,000. When you get up to 10,000, you see a lot of pencils go down for a minute, and a little bit of, you know, slowing down around that. And so when you think of the number that, you know, would set you free, and the number that you want, when you would say, for example, when you write that number down, is it something that is just sort of like ridiculously low so that you can just absolutely play it safe? Or is it so ridiculously high, like I want to be making $100,000 a month in 6 months, that it's so out of range, disproportionate to anything you can even wrap your brain around, that you literally can't experience it at all. You can't even begin to track it. And so some of these growing our belief in these areas, some of them are incremental. So don't stress out right now if you can't see, you know, like millions of dollars for yourself. I want you to know that when I started, what I could see for myself was a house payment. I just wanted to be able to make my house payment. Like, that's it. And then when I started making that, then my dream and my ability to see more kicked in. And, well, what about if I could keep that promise to my children and I could travel around the world and take the kids with me? And then when that money started coming, I could see a little further. And so, you know, don't beat yourself up if as you ask yourself, what can I see for myself? How big can I see this? If you feel truly limited, because this kind of growth in expanding your sense of what's possible can be something that happens incrementally. And the other thing I wanted to say, Sean, about how you were talking about the layers, that, you know, the one of worth, like that filters through all of them. Like, you will mitigate your success based on what you think you deserve. You will mitigate your money, financial achievement based on what you think you deserve. And so that concept of self and that deservability of self will filter through every single one of them, literally all of those. And so this confronting, first of all, becoming aware, it's the very first step of changing anything around our belief systems, is becoming aware of the chatter that's going on inside. And when we bump up against it, it's just like, you know, like Sean said, a thermostat or a ceiling. It's like a governor on a car. I don't know if you've got like a car that like has a governor on it at 80 miles an hour, and you're just flying along, and then boom, it just kicks you back like, whoa, okay, not going any faster than that. The first step is the awareness. Wow, look what's coming up. Oh, listen to that. Listen to that head talk. Listen to what I'm saying. Interesting. Why did I write down a small number when asked what my dream income would be? Why did I write a ridiculously big number that I really don't even have any relationship to at all? Like, anyway, it's just, all of it is potentially a desire to disassociate ourselves with this topic that we just feel intensely uncomfortable around?
Intensely uncomfortable. That is so true. It is kind of a tricky, slippery subject. And one of the things you've got to do is make it not slippery. You've got to not be afraid of money. So one of the things I didn't share with you guys is, and I don't know why, I just didn't think of it, but when I started my journey in coaching and being an entrepreneur, we got out of the gate really fast and made a ton of money. And then about a year and a half later, I made some choices in my business and our whole business crashed. And we ended up filing bankruptcy. Now I can look back and realize it was my money belief that didn't allow us, right? My income was actually beyond my money ceiling. And so my beliefs brought it back, and it brought it back crashing hard. And you know, it ended up being a bankruptcy. So inside that bankruptcy was a really challenging conversation, you know, obviously that I had with myself, and it caused a lot of patterns. It caused a lot of, you know, heightened awareness around money. And so what happened is my relationship with money became negative. And I went like probably 6 months without looking at my bank account. I remember in the year 2008, I looked at my bank account like 3 times over the entire year because I didn't want to see what was in there. And it was because I had such a negative relationship to money. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good. And I was scared of it, really, because it was painful for me. And so I went months without even knowing how much money we had. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want my wife to tell me about it. I just wanted, I just wanted it to go away. And so what happened? It did go away. My money went away. And if you don't have a comfortable relationship with your money, then you're not going to have a good relationship with your money. And what I've learned is that if you don't look at your money, it won't look at you, right? So you've got to embrace the whole conversation around it. So if you have a little sticky relationship with money, one of the best things you can do is talk about it, like openly talk about it. You can't make money problems go away by pretending they're not there. That'll never create any positive shift, right? And so with money, as with all beliefs, you know, whatever you pre-decide inside of your money story, whatever you pre-decide is what's going to happen. Because if you pre-decide that you're going to be rich, that you're going to be wealthy, whatever that looks like to you, then even when you do bump up against some kind of obstacle, you'll just pivot. You won't whine or cry or blame people or try to justify things. You're just going to pivot because your expectations are beyond your current circumstances. And that really is truly just a pre-decision that you can make in your life, right? So you're going to be able to take a look at what your circumstances are around money and go, oh, well, that must be what I am okay with. Because we won't tolerate anything that's not okay with us. That goes for everything, but specifically with money, we won't tolerate anything that's not okay with us. If you're living in poverty, let's say, but your money belief is up here, you're going to quickly find a way to get out of poverty and get inside what I call your toleration zone, right? If you're outside of your toleration zone, like I was, you're going to find a way to fall back into it. So what we want you to do is we want you to move this toleration zone higher and higher and higher and higher so that having more money and having more wealth doesn't scare you.
That's awesome, Sean. Awesome. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's so, you know, so important to just be transparent. One of the things I've noticed in our profession is that people just get uncomfortable. They get uncomfortable and maybe just in general everywhere when it's time to ask for the money or it's time to ask for the clothes or let's get our credit cards out. Let's get this thing going for you. You know, that is it's just an uncomfortable thing for people. And I think maybe to just sort of demystify what, you know, some of our ideas around money, like what even really is crazy abundance. What is it all about? I really was impacted by Wallace Wattles' little green book, The Science of Getting Rich. I absolutely love that book. I think that it will change your relationship to money if you will read that. And I love what he says, that money is just simply, it's an exchange. Money is compensation for service rendered. And so if you're feeling that you're a little short in the money department, serve more people. Like, I just think that is such a simple and fantastic, you know, idea to always keep front of mind. The other thing that I really appreciate in that book, there's so many rich nuggets in it, but the other thing that I really appreciate is the idea of being excellent, the best you can be wherever you are in the moment. So let's say that you're, you know, getting a new team member started, or let's say that you're maybe even enrolling a customer, getting them a customer account, taking a small order. And as you're doing it, you're thinking to yourself, I just want to be enrolling people that are going to go create a team of duplication. And one principle in this Wallace Wattles book is that if you will be the best that you can be in every single moment, if you will strive for excellence in everything you do, if you're a grocery store clerk, if you're the best grocery store clerk in that whole store, you will always rise. You will always continue to expand. Your world will grow exponentially if you will show up and be excellent at everything that you do. So don't minimize or trivialize whatever stage of growth you are at in your business. Just show up, do the best you can, serve people. If it's walking down the street, you know, have an outgoing, make a decision that everyone who crosses your path, that their lives will be better because of you, that you will bless everybody's life that crosses your path. And keep this idea, also another great principle in the book is, you know, give a silent gift, whether it's a smile, whether it's a little note, whether it's, you know, an email to somebody. Just as often as possible, give, right? And then the other thing that I would say, just another strategy, is the importance of blessing wealth wherever you see it. If you see, you know, a gorgeous home, rather than thinking, oh my gosh, well, would never have something like that. You know, I wonder what they do. Maybe they sell drugs, you know. Instead of having like a negative feeling, wherever you see, this is a principle for life. Wherever you see anything that you desire and someone else has it and not you, bless it and bless them. In your mind, say, how awesome, how exciting to see what they've done. That makes me know it's possible. Because the point here is, if you negative talk, if you downplay it, if you criticize, or you try to find a negative characterization for the person or the wealth, you are disidentifying with it. When you bless it, you include it, you take it in. It becomes a part of your sphere because you are celebrating it. And so wherever you see wealth, if you want some, or want more, then bless it every place that you see it. So those are just a couple, Sean, a couple of ideas.
Yeah, you know what? What you said is so powerful. I got my phone here because I'm actually doing a simulcast right now. So I'm live on Periscope as well. Multitasking. And
of course.
What you said about money is so critical in business, because if you're afraid of money, you're going to attract other people who are afraid of money. And when you ask for the order, whether it's a product or you're asking people to join your business, like, everything around money is not going to feel good to you because your money ceiling is low. Your money conversation is kind of yucky. And the only people you'll actually feel comfortable around are other people that fit in that same money conversation, right? And so obviously you want people that are going to elevate you, but you can't communicate with them, and you're not going to be able to attract them and make them feel comfortable if your money conversation is misaligned with them, whether it's too high or too low. But what most people struggle with is a money ceiling that's too low. So everything that we've talked about really applies to pretty much all beliefs, but the next umbrella out, if you were here early and you heard us talk about, there's a money belief, and then there's a success belief, and then there's a self-worth belief. The next umbrella up is your success belief. And we all also have a story around what's okay for success, what our level of success should be. Usually it's because we watch what our parents do, and we learn that, you know, if our parents are super wealthy, most people will have an expectation of success that matches what they see in their parents and vice versa. Now, I'm not saying that people can't break that. We hear story after story around people who have super wealthy parents, and for whatever reason, you know, they get connected to drugs, or they just really underachieve for whatever reason. That happens because of their outside programming. And then we also have people that came from really, really restricted upbringings, and they become, you know, multi-billionaires. So we're not saying that you can't break that programming, but you can't break the programming unless you first, I'm sorry, let me say that again. We're not saying you can't outperform your upbringing, but you can't outperform your upbringing until and unless you first change the programming. So every single one of those people, whether they shifted up or shifted down, they changed their internal programming about what's okay for their level of success before they manifested that level of success. Whether they manifested low or manifested high, it was their story that happened first. And then their circumstances happened next. And see, a lot of people are just trying to change their external circumstances, like the lottery example that Margie was saying earlier. Changing your external circumstances, if your story doesn't change, then the external circumstances will just eventually come back to the story, right? So that's what we want you to really create awareness around and put your intention on, is how can you change the success story inside your head, the success conflict inside your head. And so every single one of us also has a ceiling, just like we talked about with money, around success. Now, here's the interesting thing though. These beliefs can be different, right? That meaning that you can have a low success belief in relationships, but a high success belief in money, or vice versa. For me, one of the things that I learned looking back on my life is, for whatever reason, you know, I had a lot of low ceilings in my life because I had this I'm not good enough belief that pretty much touched every area of my life except relationships. So for whatever reason, I was just never willing to settle in a relationship. And I just wasn't willing to waste any time. And because of that, I didn't date much. I had very few girlfriends growing up, actually two.
Crazy.
I had two girlfriends. The first one lasted about 2 days, and I married the second, right?
Lucky Sybil.
And Sybil and I have, you know, my wife have an amazing relationship. We've never argued in 20 years together. And a lot of it was because I just wasn't willing to get into a relationship that didn't serve me. My expectation in a relationship was so high that at any point in time, if I thought that this relationship wasn't going to match my expectation, I was out. And we didn't even have to communicate. All I had to do was say, you know what, I don't think this is going to work. This person's not marryable, so I'm not interested. But that wasn't the way I treated success. It wasn't the way that I treated money as I grew up. So I just want you to understand that, you know, these beliefs a lot of times have to be handled individually. You have to handle your relationship belief different from your success belief, different from your money belief sometimes. And with clarity, you can poke holes in all of those stories. So your success belief is going to be very similar to everything that we were talking about in money, you know, in your business. You've already pre-decided when you've joined your company, you've already pre-decided how high you're going to go. All of you, if you've been in the business more than a week, you have the skill set, or you have the capacity to learn the skill set to take you to the highest level of the company. Skills are not what stops anybody. It's the pre-decision. In fact, you could take all of the prerequisites for any level of your company right now, you know, the highest level or the next level that you're trying to get to, you could take all of those prerequisites. What is it going to take to get a pink caddy in Mary Kay? What's it going to take to get the Mercedes in Arbonne? What's it going to take to hit Diamond? What's it going to take to hit whatever you're trying for? You could cut those requirements in half. And if you've been struggling to get there, you would still struggle to get there if it was half of what it actually takes, because it's not the journey, it's not the tangible measurements, it's your mindset. And if you won't allow yourself to be at that first level of leadership, we could drop it all the way down. You won't get there. We could raise it all the way up, and you could probably succeed to a certain level. Whoops, sorry, I'm trying to multitask my phone here. You could succeed. Like, let's say right now you're struggling to get here. If we doubled the requirements, you would probably allow yourself to get closer, well beyond what you're now struggling to hit, but you still won't allow yourself to go there. That's a mindset issue. That's a ceiling. That's not a skill set problem. So I want you to just really understand that you've pre-decided what's okay. And what happens is you're going to sabotage yourself if you have a success story, if you have a success ceiling lower than what intellectually you want to hit. So most people's intellectual goals are way up here. Their success ceiling is way down here. And so now we have what's called a fear of success. And a fear of success is when you succeeding at the level that you want to succeed will pull you beyond your level of toleration, pull you beyond your level of comfort. And it causes you to actually be afraid of this gap in here, and or you would have to sacrifice things that are most important to you. So if you've got a fear of success, that conflict, you could keep busting your head up against this wall all you want, and you could cry about this goal. You could really focus on this goal. You could do affirmations around this goal. If you don't increase this success ceiling, that goal is simply going to be unattainable. So what we're talking about, what we want you to do is we want you to put your focus here, because that's what it's about. It's not about skill set. It's about this success ceiling. It's about your belief around success, your pre-decisions about what's okay for you. And that's the only way that you'll be able to rise to the level of your expectations and to the level of your skill set.
Right, right, right. So just like we've got our ideas that we started adopting these ideas at a very, very young age. They're deep. Many of these ideas about our money programming, our programming around success, and our programming around our just self and our own worthiness, they're deep. They began forming so long ago, and so much of what we do is simply just playing out this programming. And our invitation to you and our request is to become keenly aware of what these programs are. What's your story around money? What's your story around success? When we're talking success now, we're talking a much broader category. As Sean said, we're talking relationships, we're talking monetary success, we're talking our physical well-being, we're talking our spiritual connection. All of those things now get encompassed by success in general. And so the question or the thing to notice is, how much happiness is enough for you? How much joy is enough for you? I watch people settling all the time in a relationship that, man, like, I wouldn't tolerate that, like it, or you know, physically, just like, what do you want for yourself? What level of excellence will you have? And where will you no longer sell out? It is that simple. It's as simple as making a determination and then becoming keenly aware of the programs and the conversations and the conditioning that are running your life right now. And so that a good question for you to ask yourself is, how much happiness is enough, or how much happiness is too much, right? We cap ourselves out. Like, what can we really allow for ourselves? I think that that life also has a way of conditioning us. We have big dreams maybe when we're little children, and then we begin to settle and we're happy enough. Like, I believe that you can find joy in every circumstance. You can be a joyful person regardless of any level of attainment in anything. And that's where we're really going to go as we get into worthiness, that, you know, unattached to any external modes of success, our worth is intact, right? And how much will you allow for yourself to have do and have in all of these areas that would encompass, that you would put under the success umbrella? It's just a great question to ask yourself. So, you know, I've seen it play out a lot in my 27 years in this profession, how people will limit themselves by some preconceived idea. Like, I see all of the raw elements of huge success, and I see the desire, and I see the need, and yet I see the limitations, how people get locked into an old story. And so I guess the question that we're, kind of throwing out there tonight and in your face a little bit is, what is your story going to be? Like, what do you want your story to be? How big do you want to play? Because I can tell you that you were born for greatness, and that there are gifts and skills in you that you alone can fulfill. That within you, there is a song to sing that if you don't sing it, it simply goes unsung. And so when you look at success in general, both from an internal and external perspective, how much can you claim as yours? How much?
That is so good, Margie. I love those introspective questions. That is so powerful. So the last thing we're going to talk about here is that highest level, right? Money is here, success is here, the middle umbrella, and then the biggest umbrella is your self-worth. And Margie and I have a program actually starting tomorrow as we're recording this, and we're going to really dive deep into all of these money beliefs, success beliefs, and especially self-worth beliefs, because if you don't break up the foundation that your business is built upon, the foundation that your life is built upon, if you don't break up those foundations, then again, you're just going to keep, really bumping up against it. So we'll tell you about that program here in a few minutes, but the next big chunk here, the next big umbrella, I almost said big burrito. Maybe that means I'm hungry.
Or the whole enchilada.
The whole enchilada. There you go. The next.
What are you doing there? Are you knocking things around in your office?
I know. I'm like multitasking over here. The next big thing is your self-worth. And this is really everything, Your self-worth is pretty much going to trump just about everything. And who you believe yourself to be is, I think, the core question, right? The core question is, who am I? And what do I want? And what am I made of? And what kind of mark do I want to leave on the world? And what kind of impact do I want to create? What kind of legacy do I want to leave, etc.? That is really what's going to determine your joy. It's going to determine your happiness. It's going to determine your ability to make changes. It's going to determine everything. And it's the scariest thing for us to explore as well, because we all have some level of inadequacy belief. We all have a fear of not measuring up. For a lot of women, it's I'm not pretty enough. For a lot of men, it's I'm not strong enough. For most people, it's some form of I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to succeed in business. I'm not good enough to make money. I'm not good enough to make my parents proud. I'm not good enough to make my husband or my wife proud. For me, I'm not good enough to make my daughter proud. That's one of the core beliefs that I have in a story is I'm so scared on some level. This doesn't run my life. But if I'm honest with you, there are times when I look at myself in the mirror and go, am I good enough to father McKenna? Am I good enough to show her what a relationship should be like? Am I doing a good enough job? So we all have those inadequacy beliefs and the inadequacy story. I don't want you to be afraid of the story. I don't want you to be afraid of the doubts. I don't want you to be afraid of that conversation, because you've got to have this open conversation so you can do something about it. And if you find yourself getting really emotionally engaged when you ask yourself, am I good enough to succeed, to make money, to make so-and-so proud? If you find yourself getting emotionally engaged, and that means this is a belief that you've got to work on. This is some kind of conflict inside of you. When I say emotionally engaged, like, does it cause you to shut down? Does it cause you to retreat? Does it cause you to cry in such a way that you feel like you're out of control, right? So this conversation around, am I enough, is the core fear that we have, because we don't ever want to consider that we actually aren't good enough. So we've got this dual thing happening. This is one of the most profound realizations that I've had in my own personal development journey, as well as in coaching, is on one level, we're doing everything we can to prove ourselves worthy, to prove ourselves valuable, to prove ourselves good enough. On another level, we're doing everything we can to not try our best, because if we try our best and we fail, then we run the risk of coming face to face with the reality that maybe we're not good enough. See, if I don't try hard enough, then at least I can say, at least I've got an out. At least I can say, well, I didn't really try hard enough. But if I give it my all and I fall short, then the conversation has to be, well, what's wrong with me? I tried my best and I still failed. So there's a piece of us that shows up as procrastination, that shows up as perfectionism, that shows up as time management problems, that shows up as all of our sabotaging behaviors and patterns. Those behaviors are designed to stop us from trying our best. Now, that doesn't make any intellectual sense. Why would we stop ourselves from trying our best to achieve what we want in life? But we're stopping ourselves from trying our best so that we can hold on to the possibility that we are enough. We're so scared of giving it our all, falling down, and then deciding that, you know what? My mom was right. My dad was right. My teacher was right. My friends were right. The haters were right. The doubters were right. Whoever wherever in your life has said that you might not be good enough, and you've taken on that belief, your deepest fear is actually confirming that belief. And that's why sabotage is created. So once you clear up that conversation, you're willing to go in and rewrite that story. Now the sabotage doesn't have to live anymore because there's nothing to protect against. And then life gets so much easier. When I cleared myself of those limiting beliefs about I'm not good enough and I can't succeed, etc., my life went like this, just immediately. That's when we made hundreds of thousands of dollars in 1 year, because I gave myself that permission. Now, we earned beyond my belief ceiling for success and money, so it came crashing back down. But as soon as I released myself of those internal, challenging stories, then it went like crazy, boom, right? And so we all want to be liberated by that. So that's why we're talking about really staying inside that story and rewriting that story and challenging it so that you can release the chains. It's like most people have an anchor underneath the water that you don't even understand you have. You don't realize that you're trying as hard as you can to get the boat out of the harbor, but underneath the boat is anchored to the seafloor. So it doesn't matter how much you work on your skill set for driving a boat. If you don't uproot that anchor, you're not going anywhere. That's what most people are dealing with in their life. So we want to teach you how to uproot that anchor and allow your boat to fly wherever it wants to fly.
Fly or float, right?
Fly or float, right.
You get me so excited when you were saying that thing about a good enough dad for McKenna. I actually got emotional over here because you're one of the most phenomenal fathers I've ever known. And she is so lucky to have you. Sorry, I just had to interject that. You are such an awesome dad. But I guess that just, it kind of punctuates the idea that every single one of us is grappling on some level with our enoughness. Or maybe there are some who aren't. But let me just say, all the human beings that I know are grappling on some level with their enoughness. Am I enough? Am I smart enough? Can I pull this off? Do I know enough? Am I connected enough? And to hear Sean say that, like, is he a good enough dad, when I think he's one of the greatest dads that ever walked the earth, it just shows that we're all grappling with our enoughness. And here's the rub. Here's a couple of things that are just the real rub on all of this, that as long as we are tying our sense of value to any performance at all, we're screwed. We have got to here's the real tough part. It doesn't matter how well and brilliantly we do at something. It doesn't really matter how much praise or accolades we get from the externals. If we are tying our sense of self, our value of who we are as human beings, to our performance in anything, we're screwed. Because the bottom line is that our worth and our value is not tied to our performance at all. If I become a whiz-bang amazing, triple crown, double diamond ruby, expert galactic MLMer, Am I worth more? No, the answer is no, I am not worth more. If I achieve very little in my business, am I worth less? No. Our worth is independent of any performance. And here's the other part that's really challenging. No one can give it no one can give it to us but us. It doesn't matter. All of the externals can get piled high that makes it look like, yes, we've got a lot of money. Yes, we've got a lot of success. If that worthiness thing doesn't say, you know what, you were worthy before you had any of it. If it doesn't say that, there's nothing external that can ever bring it. And if you're willing to give that to yourself, because that's where it has to come from, if you're willing to give that to yourself as just a threshold issue, then everything becomes a joyful dance, because the stakes are too high. Like Sean was saying, if your success and your money and all of those things are going to define your worth, the stakes are too high. Why would you even really want to play? And so this conversation is just, it's rich. As you can see, it's one that I get fairly emotional about, because I think it's at the very core of our human experience. And what I love about our business more than anything is who you are called to be and who you can support other people in becoming. I really believe that the best thing that happens to us, far beyond the money or the passive recurring income and those things that make life lovely and wonderful and easier, is really who we become in the process. And so I love what this business calls forth in us. It's just some of my most favorite stuff. And Sean mentioned that we put together a course. So we've got an amazing community of people, and we've got a few courses. We just completed one called Advanced Leadership and Coaching course that was kind of a very in-depth look at what we think are some missing pieces in training in our profession. And kind of in conversation with a few people, conversation with each other, we thought, so what's next? We knew that our community was not really ready to be done. Like, what's next? And we decided that with this time of year being such a really amazing and just like all stars aligned, like a truly prosperous time of year to be able to recruit and team build, that we wanted to create a course around recruiting. Nothing but recruiting. And as we started outlining this course that will be 6 weeks of content from us, and we're bringing also in some experts. Sean will tell you about this in a minute, but and then there'll be some laser coaching calls. It'll be a 10-week course all in all. We started outlining it. We got so freaking excited. I don't believe that this course has its equal. At least I've never seen anything like it anywhere in all of my 27 years in network marketing or direct sales. I have not seen anything like it. It is so comprehensive, and the goal of all of it is that you channel that inner recruiter inside of you, that you get so clear about your worthiness, independent of any performance, that you break through those limiting beliefs, that you craft such a strong and compelling vision that you're literally a magnet, all of those things, and that you get your recruiting game on like you never have. This course, we just, as we mentioned, we're starting, module, our first week is going to be tomorrow. We're going over the content today, and we're just like, damn, this is good. So it's a fantastic course, really the first of its kind. And we just invite you to join us this time of year. Like, this is the time for recruiting. This is the time to team build. It's just, all systems go. So Sean, you want to tell them a little bit more of the details about our recruiting mastery, how to create a leveraged income and passive, amazing life?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I won't tell much more about the story behind it, because I would go on and on and on. But it is, super meaningful for us. It is something, as Margie said, that's really designed to change the whole game in your business, in your life, go deeper into changing the results, and address everything we possibly can around recruiting. in network marketing and direct sales. So I'm going to share my screen here just so that you can see, the slides. You can see that, right, Margie?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is Recruiting Mastery. We're going to talk about building leverage, building momentum, building wealth, etc. And the structure of the program is, it's a 10-week course. Like Margie said, a lot of it is taught by us. There's laser coaching inside of it. We're bringing some experts in the industry to teach what they've learned about recruiting, and we do the calls on different nights of the week so that if you have any kind of conflict, you know, you're not going to bump up against the same weekly conflict every week. You're going to have access to archives, and you're going to have a Facebook support group to help you, engage in the content, but also just support you in your journey. And as I said, there were going to be powerful speakers, open laser coaching, getting handouts. We really are setting up the course in such a way that we know is important for maximum learning, right? And the content of the course is everything that has to do with recruiting. We're going to talk about building leverage. We're going to talk about creating a recruiting culture. We're going to talk about reframing a lot of those limiting beliefs, around success, around money, around self-worth. We're going to talk about creating wild duplication, which is so important, because if you don't have duplication in your business, then you can't have leverage in your business. And Margie and I were going over a little bit of this content about what we're going to share. And duplication has to be created intentionally. It can't be something that you just hope for. It's got to be something that you intentionally create. And it's nice to have duplication that just won't stop, right? It takes on a life of its own. We're going to talk more about the importance of having a strong vision. How do you transfer that vision? How do you help other people create their own vision? How do you use belief in every aspect of your business, recruiting? How do you help other people believe in themselves, in the business, whatever's holding them back? We're going to talk about some of the core fundamental concepts and mindsets and pillars of success and the psychology of success. So we really want to teach some of those overarching, if you take a look at that bigger umbrella that we were talking about, we want to teach success in general and then help you apply it to your business. We don't want you to only learn how to be successful inside your business, because then you're going to be restricted on some level, right? We're going to break down the recruiting process that has helped Margie and her team literally recruit hundreds of thousands of people, literally hundreds of thousands of people. You're going to learn that recruiting process. You're going to learn the language. This is going to be a game changer for a lot of you. This piece right here is going to be worth everything for a lot of you. It's the language of inviting, whether it's your warm market, people that you know, cold market, how to use lifestyle recruiting. When you hear Margie go through a lot of the invitation language and how to dance with some of the objections that people give, you'll be amazed at how smooth it can be. A lot of people have this resistance when it comes to talking about recruiting because of all the beliefs that we've talked about so far, but a lot of times just they don't know what to say. And when you hear some of the words and you hear the energy behind the words, it'll just clear you up so much. We've had so many students say that changed the entire game for them when they just heard Margie go through a role play with somebody as though she was calling a friend that she hasn't talked to in years, or somebody that she just met on the street. So that in itself is going to be worth the entire investment of time, energy, and money. And then we'll also talk about team building, not just creating people, not just creating recruits, but how do you actually build your team? Once they come in, how do you train them? How do you get them bought in so that they can continue to build and everything starts to expand and you start, getting duplication that really goes beyond you, right? So that's the content of the program. What's possible? I'll just share a few of these. This content changed my life. Danita said she found like she was full and purposeful. She says the program will change your entire world. Now, this was a different program, but this is, a lot of the content of doing the internal work. Kelly, I love Kelly. She said, my spirit, my soul, my eyes have changed. My team is growing inside and out. They help us undo decades of limiting beliefs in a matter of days. And when you do this work, you can absolutely have some results shift. And Stephanie says it's her best year ever. It's her unit's best month ever. She feels more confident. She feels like such a stronger recruiter. So that's some of the kind of results that you can get. And if you know this program is for you, you can go to eliteleadersnetwork.com/RM, as you see there on the screen. RM stands for Recruiting Mastery. eliteleadersnetwork.com/RM. We love to give bonuses for those of you that take action. You're going to get 2 free bonuses or 2 free months in the Eagles Club after the course is done, so that it doesn't conflict with the course. You're going to get digital access to my program called Releasing the Brakes, which is a much deeper dive into limiting beliefs. There's a coaching CD on there that is my version of the 15-minute exercise that literally changed my entire life in 2005. And you're also going to get a private coaching session free, just as a bonus for the program, with one of our trained certified life coaches, so that they can help you identify where you are personally stuck or challenged, right? It's important to get a spotlight on your experience specifically. So those are some of the bonuses that you're going to get. Should we give them some fast action takers bonuses, Margie?
Yeah, sure.
Why not,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
All right. And sorry if the slides are
Going slow. They're slow. They're going slow. Yeah.
not sure why. Sometimes the Hangout just doesn't pick it up as fast. But do you see the fast action taker
Yep.
bonus slide? Okay. So I wasn't sure if I was going to do this, but here's some fast action takers for you. So for the first 50 people, you're going to get digital access to another program called Defeating Your Fears. These are 8 CDs around everything that has to do with fear, and your relationship with fear is really going to determine your success in life. So that's a really powerful program. And then for the first 5 people from this point forward, from the first 5 people that are hearing this message, I'm going to give you a private coaching call with me. So
Which is so huge. This is so huge. Oh my gosh.
well, thank you for that. So instead of your call being with one of my coaches, it's going to be with me, because I really want to incentivize you, and I want to reward the people who, see enough in themselves. Even if you don't really see everything that you're capable of being right now, you at least have enough to try. You've got enough in you that wants to bet everything on you, right? And that's what I really want you to to do. And if you think that we're just laying all these bonuses on and dragging this out so that you'll invest in the program, yes, you're
right.
You're absolutely right. We want you to say yes to yourself. We want you to jump in and go, let's go. I mean, I want to get into the ring and get into a good fight for everything that I want. So here's the investment of the program. We want to make this program relatively simple. We want to drop the bar on the investment. We don't want you to feel like it's a huge, stress inducer for you. So the investment in this program is $195, or it's $75 times 3. And there is a full money back guarantee on the program. If you don't like anything inside the first 30 days, you can get your money back. Really no questions asked. And what I want you to think about is, I want you to think, what if you learned in 10 weeks, what if you learned one small thing that you implement in your follow-up system, or in dancing with objections, or in language around inviting people that you know or people that you don't know? What if you just learned one small thing and made one tiny tweak from Margie or myself or from somebody in your community? What could that create in your business as it ripples out? What if you make one 2% shift or 2-degree shift in your trajectory, what would that look like in 6 months? What if you could learn one thing and recruit 10 more people throughout the rest of this year? Would that be worth a $200 investment? Would that be worth the time investment of you going through this program and you implementing? So I really want you to think of this. And if your answer is no, then don't do it. We're not desperate. We're not asking you to say yes so that, it'll change our life. Like, we want this to be either a hell yes or a hell no. And if you know inside that you've got to clean up some of the beliefs that you have, you've got to clean up some of the relationships that you have to your business, specifically to recruiting, then jump in. If this really has the power to change your life, you owe it to yourself to do everything you can to create success. And I firmly believe that if you have the ability to achieve success, then you have an obligation to achieve success. And if we can be part of that solution for you, then that's awesome. We welcome you into the community. If you don't feel the desire to play at this level, then that's awesome too. We celebrate you for being on this webinar hangout. We celebrate you for listening to the replay. We celebrate you for reading the emails and whatever you've done to engage. And if this is as far as you're going to go with us, then awesome. We celebrate that as well. And we hope that, you've picked up something in this presentation that has served you, that you can still take into your life and into your business and make a change. Margie, is there anything you want to add to all of that?
Just again, that this is such such a critical time of year to to really harness, to bring everything you've got to bear right now, because people are struggling out there and they're looking for solutions. And I dare say that you have solutions for a lot of people. There are people that are literally waiting for you to open your mouth and share with them. And if there is anything that is getting in the way of you being able to reach out and change the lives of people around you, because of fears that you've got or whatever is happening that's keeping you from doing, being, and having all that you were born for, like, run with us here. Let us help you. Let us help you with this process and break through those limiting beliefs so that the world can be blessed by your brilliance. We're here to advocate for you.
Oh, I love that. And I just want to celebrate because somebody on the Facebook page said, I'm in. And I want to acknowledge her. Sharon says she's in. So I went over just to check the registrations, just to see how many people came in. And I'm going to take our presentation. I'm going to take the slides off. So hopefully you can see me now. And first of all, I can tell you the fast action taker bonus. The first 5 are gone. So Deb Lanza jumped in. Kanani jumped in. Dawn jumped in. Nancy jumped in. Mary jumped in. Sharon jumped in. So I just want to really acknowledge you guys for taking action. Kathy just jumped in. And, that doesn't excite me because we have a new person in our program. That doesn't excite me because, there's some more money going into our bank account. That excites me because you're saying yes. And it really, truly lights Margie and I up to play with people who say yes. To play with people who are willing to do everything they possibly can, who are not willing to quit. Play with people who are willing to keep fighting.
Not willing to sell out on, to sell out on themselves. It's what we have seen over and over again is that decisiveness is really a quality of successful people. Napoleon Hill.
Speak to that. Speak to that. Yeah. Talk about that. That's huge.
Napoleon Hill says that that successful people in any walk of life make decisions quickly and firmly. And I guess that the opposite would be true, that people that are a little less successful take forever to make decisions. I'm not saying this so that you're decisive right now. I'm saying it because for the people that are making a decision, that decisiveness is a really great quality, and then sticking to your decisions. Like in our business, I notice the people that are less successful are the ones that take forever to decide. And then once they decide, they're constantly weighing it and reweighing it and reweighing it. the people that are fairly decisive after enough due diligence and then stick to their decisions, they're the ones that are successful. And one thing that we didn't mention yet that we just got to say is we've got the most amazing community. As you get to know people that are from all different companies, even really not just in the United States, you are going to absolutely fall in love with this amazing community. They are so present, and they're, like the support system that you will feel around getting to know our community. It's just an absolute gift. So is everything okay, Sean? You went running away there. Is everything all right?
Yes, everything is okay.
Everything's okay. I was just talking about our community and what a gift it is.
No, I can still hear it.
Okay. Yeah.
Different. I just needed water. That's all.
Oh, got it.
So I went looking to say, I filled up a whole bottle of water and I can't find it. It must have got lost in the multitasking. So what you just said, Margie, the decisiveness, it's so critical. And whether you decide to join us or not, that's on you. And if you are a hell yes for this program, fantastic. We can't wait to lock arms with you and to really dig in. If you're a hell no on this program, just be decisive in your life. And I totally agree with what Margie said, that decisiveness is one of, I would probably say, if we had to pick one character trait that is most common with successful people, it's probably that. There are no physical traits that successful people share across the board, but you can never waffle your way to anything significant. You can never think your way to success. You can only act your way to success. And so if you find yourself a lot of times going in or out, should I do this, should I not do it, that energy is going to keep you stuck, and it's going to feed into the fear, it's going to feed into the doubt, it's going to feed into those limiting beliefs. And if that's what you needed to get on this webinar, on this hangout, then take that piece right there and clean up your own relationship with decisiveness. Clean up your relationship with making decisions, because you cannot be undecisive or indecisive and create anything worth having in life. And remember, anytime you decide, you can always redecide. There are so few decisions that are permanent. And people are afraid to make decisions because they're afraid to make the wrong decision. But there are so few permanent decisions. And at any point in time, when this decision doesn't feel good anymore, then redecide. And if you really give yourself the freedom to take decisive action and then learn whether it's quote unquote right or wrong based on actual feedback, rather than you trying to project and deciding whether it's going to be right or wrong, your life will dramatically change just because you're in motion, just because you've got that forward lean, right? So hopefully, those of you that need to clean up your own relationship with decisiveness, you'll take us up on that challenge. And whatever that looks like pertaining to our program or anybody else's program, or maybe it's not even programs at all, maybe it's in a relationship, but really clean up your relationship with decisiveness. It's huge.
Well, I'm super excited about this course, and I'm very excited to just to get to know each of you. Those of you who put up your hand and said yes, we're gonna get to know each other, and it's exciting. The journey that we have here with this amazing business of ours, network marketing and direct sales, is such a rich one, and my life has been blessed beyond measure with this business. And my goal now is to do anything that I can to teach anything that I've learned, the small distinctions that can make a really big difference, to help you shortcut your journey, to help you be the gift to your team, and the ripple effect that takes you to be the gift that you were born to be. And if we can help make that journey a little smoother, a little faster, a little more shortcut, like that's our goal. That's why we priced this thing the way that we did. We know that particularly when you're trying to get your business up and running, that, you know, sometimes it feels like you're spending more money than you're making, and you've got products to buy, and you've got marketing materials, and you've got, you know, investment in your business. We did not want that to be an obstacle. We wanted you to be able to say yes. If this resonates, that's why we priced it as we did, so that you could say yes. And we are so freaking excited about this journey. This is going to be great, and the timing of it could not be better. The world needs what we've got, guys. The world needs the solutions that we can offer. You just need the boldness of spirit and the belief in yourself and the belief in what you're doing, that you can step confidently and just with ease and grace share the solutions that you have for so many people's lives. So that's all I've got, Sean. Mwah.
I love
really
you.
fun.
And,
I love you.
and I just want to highlight one thing you said. You know, you don't have to be doing this. You've put in your time. This industry has given you so much because you've given so much to it, and you've served so many people. And I just thank you for having the heart to still be in service when you could easily be on a beach somewhere and not engage in any of the stressful things in life, because you really have you've put in the work to earn that. And the fact that you're still wanting to be in the game, wanting to give value, is only driven by your heart, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. Like, you've already achieved what most people are trying to achieve so they can stop working. And I see you working harder, Margie. And I know it's coming from a place of you just so deeply wanting to serve, and so deeply wanting people to fall in love with themselves, to fall in love with life, to clean up their relationships with their family. And I know your heart is just so dedicated and committed to that service. And that's why you still do what you do when you don't have to. So I thank you on behalf of all the people that you touch that wouldn't have otherwise been touched if you would have decided, I've done enough, it's time for me to step out of the game. And the ripple effect that you've created is just amazing. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
You are amazing. I love you. And I
love you too. This course is going to be great. And, you know, I can't say enough about how joyful it is working with you. You're the best. You're just the best of the best. And it's going to be great. I'm excited.
Awesome. And before we end here, there's more people that are jumping in. So we really celebrate you guys. We have Beatrice came in, and Sally came in, and Erica came in, and Mary came in. So we celebrate all of you. We start this program tomorrow at the time of this recording, and we just can't wait to go deeper. So take care, everyone. We wish you the best, and we will talk to you really soon.